To the Bills. They, of course, here today and yesterday talking to the media, and the Bills didn't receive much production out of their wide receivers last season. The group averaged the fewest air yards per target in the NFL. How do we get more help for Josh Allen, right? As for Buffalo's running backs and tight ends, no team got more yards per reception out of those positions than the Bills. The Bills wideouts struggled, right? But Josh Allen is always a threat with his legs. His new head coach, Joe Brady, spoke today on the importance of protecting his dual threat quarterback.
There's going to come a time in his career where he's going to have to, his legs aren't going to be able to do what he can do, and he's going to have to become a true pocket passer. We're not there yet, right? But so I have to be mindful of that when I'm calling plays. We know in the pass game, Josh is going to scramble. So you got to count those scrambles, knowing that there's going to be some of the runs. And so tell me the time in the game, the importance of it, where we are in the season. That's when I think some of just the true design runs come into play. But if I ask him, he'll be like, hey, run me 40 times, throw it 40 times. I really don't care. I just would like him. Now we got a grass field. I hope he slides a little more.
You know, it's interesting because I think when you think about the Bills right now, it feels like a bit of a turning point. Obviously, they move on from Sean McDermott. Joe Brady is now the head coach. They got to do more for Josh Allen. They fall short. Do you expect them to be adding more help, Peter? And what would that look like for Josh Allen?
I think the DJ Moore trade was a very big trade.
Yeah.
They went and got DJ Moore, and the way that the Buffalo sources have kind of framed this is if you look at some of the other free agents that were out in the market, that number was extremely high for some of these wide receivers. And what we did for DJ Moore was we're getting a veteran player who we believe can actually play a significant role right from the go. And last year where they didn't have that veteran receiver and he didn't have that go-to guy, and he's relying on players that are untested besides Khalil Shakir, a bunch of young shavers, and down the stretch you're looking for production from guys that haven't done it before. DJ Moore's done it. He's played in big games. So I think DJ Moore is big. I'd also say they were 31st in the league against the run last year.
Yeah.
So this is not just a team that's a receiver away. So I would say be careful on just sliding, hey, 26th overall pick, the Bills, best receiver available, go. No, that's not how they operate. And they think they did check a big box with DJ Moore.
And I think that's exactly right. I don't think they're looking for a wide receiver early. They went wide receiver early. They went DJ Moore.
Right.
And it's not the first time this organization has done that. They traded a first-round pick for Stephon Diggs back in the day, and that seemed to work out pretty well. And Diggs helped carry the receiving core. And I think that they're counting on DJ Moore to do something similar right now. If there's another receiver at some point in the draft, I'm sure they'd love to add one. It's a deep draft for wide receivers. They'll find some help somewhere along the way. But this is a team that has holes. This is a team that has needs. Don't know that you could afford to go receiver in round one, trade second-round pick for DJ Moore. It's not like we're going to play 7-on-7 flag football with a bunch of wide receivers.
And we learned that the NFL players aren't great at that. So I think we're going to stick with,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they're going to draft a wide receiver unless, which I don't see how this is really going to happen, somehow a spectacular receiver just falls into their lap and they're like, well, we can't not select this. Which based on any of the mock drafts seems unlikely. I mean, but right, their defense was a mess last year and was a major liability, and then we have this. And this is what's so funny to me. Because we know Josh Allen is elite. We know Josh Allen is special. Even the people that want to hate on Josh Allen, he can't win a big game, blah blah blah. He chokes. Which is obviously wrong. But let's just say those guys that love to say that nonsense that I fight up against all the time. You think Josh Allen is why they're 25th with wide receivers in yards per reception and air yards per target last you didn't that's just Josh. That's Josh Allen, right? Like that's a Josh Allen point, right? Like trait that he brings to this team. It's an issue that Josh Allen needs to work on, like obviously not. Right? Obviously not. This is clearly an issue of personnel. Of who you have to actually target. And I had gone through this data before. The data is going to be dated at this point because I went through the numbers in like the middle of the season, and it's numbers that I have to like really crunch and do. I don't just have a website that I just like am able to just like grab it from. But I was comparing, the YAC and the contested target rate and the contested target catch rate and like all that type of stuff, and the Bills were just in the gutters. And they were below that, and I compared it to none other than the Kansas City Chiefs. I was like, everyone's talking about the Kansas City Chiefs receivers and how everyone's all either injured or suspended. And it's like, we only got, Hollywood Brown and Juju or whatever. And it's just like, and yet it's still better production. It's still better production than whatever the Bills got going. And then this was my big gripe, especially in the playoff game. It's like, you have all of this and now you're trying in the biggest moments, you're trying to flip this around. You're trying to be like, nope, we're not going to accept that our liability is our receivers and yards per reception and YAC and air targets. We're just going to act like that's not an issue that we have to kind of work around. And it was like, maybe don't try to go up against that trend in I don't know, overtime in a game-winning drive. I don't know. Call me crazy, right? Call me crazy. So yeah, there were issues on both sides of the ball. And I like listening to Brady cause you hear Brady talking and I've said this before and I just now that I heard him give that little sound bite, he is going to be a different offensive coach for Josh Allen as a head coach than as when he is just an OC. There really you where he is just so much more empowered. And I've tried to, relay this as clearly as I can, but like anyone who's ever been on a team where you genuinely have multiple coaches and you have a head coach and you have position coaches, all that, like it's just different. Like yes, Brady was in charge of Josh Allen and the offense and play calling and all of that and he was empowered to run the offense, no doubt about it. It's just really different. It's just really different now that he is the true bona fide head coach. And so I am curious. I do like the things that Brady is saying. I really do and I'm not even like the biggest Brady fan. I'm some days I'm just like, oh, he's a great coach. Some days I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it is tough because I have such high respect for the McVays, for the Andys and since I believe in Josh Allen so much, I'm always just thinking, man, if only Josh Allen had that, right? Then it would just be game over to me. And so but it's not that I don't think it's not that I think that Brady is a bad coach by any stretch of the imagination. It's just by comparison to the McVays, which again, that's a hard comp, obviously. It's just I'm always looking over, right? The grass is always a little bit greener. But I do appreciate Brady and I do appreciate some of the quotes and sound bites that I've heard from him and I am optimistic that him being now the head coach, there will be even more growth out of him as a coach, out of him as a play caller, but it could also technically go the other way. Like that's the thing. It could technically also go the other way. I'm not anticipating that, but I am leaving the door open for that because, things get weird quickly once you are in a position of power, but I do appreciate the relationship dynamic that Josh Allen has with Brady that I think can go a long way. I'm encouraged by that to a degree. I don't know if it completely brings it home, but I am also interested to see what DJ Moore brings to this team and if they can round out the defense. We know the defense has been an issue. I mean, we saw that again and again and again and, even when the offense had its issues because Josh Allen is so great and because they did have the run game going, they were able to find their ways through, snorts, a lot of the problems. And what Brady was kind of talking about essentially was like Josh Allen's not always going to be able to do that. The day hasn't come yet, but that can't always be the case and the biggest thing is you can't rely on Josh Allen to be that way week after week after week just for the sole reason that his body will break down as we've already are seeing it for all these quarterbacks right now. And so to me, this comin' season is very much about like just allowing Josh Allen to just play quarterback in the traditional sense and then in the got to have it moments in the playoffs, of course, then you unleash him and let him be him. But you got to be able to reliably win games without constantly needing the magic of Josh Allen and last season, you needed a lot of the magic. You needed all you whether it was against the Patriots, whether it was against the Bengals, whether it was against, the Bucks, like you needed magic after magic after magic against the Ravens. And it's a long season. It becomes a long season. So, with an elevated defense, with some actual production from your wide receivers, with hopefully DJ Moore not only does that individually, but because of his presence, then you now get to elevate everyone else. Ideally, this is able to, snowball positively and really build some momentum here. So, I obviously always, have a tremendous amount of belief in the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, etc. I am very fascinated to see what this team looks like this coming season. I don't have a strong sense of I have a strong sense of what their floor is because their floor is so Josh Allen-centric to me. In terms of what their ceiling is, just how electric they can be, just how great this team can be, I honestly do not have a clear-cut strong planting my flag. This is what I believe they can be like. I have a clearer understanding of what the Rams are going to look like, and I can go through all the other Ram teams, and it's just I don't necessarily have that for the Bills, which I actually find exciting personally. I like to not have it all fully fleshed out. I very much like to live in the wait and see because I want to wait and see. I want to see what this all looks like. Again, I'm incredibly optimistic, and I do believe that, and I'm not just saying that just for the sake of being I'm an optimistic person. No, it's based on actual, reality, but in terms of what's that next step because I can see this team looking very similar to last season, very similar, where you're having the moments when you're man, this team, who would ever want to face them? And you're having other moments when you're just the margin of error is still too small. You still need to rely so heavily on Josh Allen. I mean, even the beating the Jags last season, you needed the absolute bona fide brilliance of Josh Allen in those moments, and I'd love for them just to be able to just widen that margin of error and get away from that a little bit. And I'm optimistic that DJ Moore has that effect. Again, not only individually, but just now also from a trickle-down effect as well as correcting some of the defensive issues. And when you do that, right? When you have a high enough floor from just a team perspective now, not Josh Allen-centric floor, when the floor is good enough from just a team perspective, and then you insert a Josh Allen, then it's then you got no problems. Then you got no problems. It makes me think of this quote from Pool Hall Junkies. Oh man, I can't think of his name. Christopher Walken. And he was we have this there he goes to Christopher Walken. He's we have this problem. We have this problem. We have this problem. And he's what problem do we have? And he's just there's where's you cause they're hustlers. And the pool player is all stressed out, and he's if money can solve the problem, then we don't have a problem. And it's always burned into my brain that quote. And that's what I think about. It's just when if you have a good enough floor and you have Josh Allen, if there's any problem you have, then there is no problem. I mean, you don't got a problem. When you're dealing with nonsense like that, then you got a problem cause then you don't have the money to fix it out. But when the floor is good enough and you got Josh Allen, then there is no problem. Then there is no problem. So, I remain optimistic. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills? How do you feel about this team moving forward? I made a whole video the other day talking about J-Mac was talking about how stacked the other teams are and how the Super Bowl window is closed for the Buffalo Bills, and it's just we'll see. We'll see. But let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. So, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. This really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.